Welcome once again, and I welcome you to a lecture on web application development. So today we are going to be looking at something different. We are going to be looking at HTML form, and the form. So I will be designing the contact us form, including the sign up of form. Then I will leave the about us page for you to design as your own exercise, which is going to be the last that we are going to do on HTML and CSS. So now let's continue on our journey in HTML and CSS to quickly design a separate page for the contact us form. So first we are going to start with the contact us form. Now let's open up the Windows Explorer, and if you look at our project structure, let me collapse some of this. Okay, you can see over here that I have index.html. You can forget about this document. So I have index.html. Make sure you click outside here and create a separate file, and this you are free to call it contact.us.html. Your file name should not have a space between it. Okay, so now we want to create a contact us form, and do not forget that the approach we are using now is quite different from before, where we are putting the design and the HTML contents together. So right now we are going to be designing following as from now henceforth we are going to be following this pattern where we do not have our design included with the HTML document together. Rather, we have it in a separate pages. Okay, so now what is the way forward? Now let's go back to our index.html. Remember, you want to start by creating your HTML structure, and if you hold down the shift key on your keyboard and press 1, which is going to give you exclamation, and press enter, the editor is going to help you as fast as it can to give you substructures that we need to continue our journey on. So more on this later. If you like, you can leave it there or you can delete it, but the most important thing to me is the link. Okay, this is a separate page entirely, and I need to link it up with our CSS file. And do not forget that the CSS file is located inside the CSS folder, and for that reason you want to first type CSS folder followed by a /, and you want to type your style.css. okay, style.css. And so that's the first thing I expect you to do, because currently you are here, but please observe that we created this file not inside the lecture 2 project file, so it wouldn't work fine. But there is no cause for alarm. You can always hold down your left mouse button on it and drag it, place it inside where it's supposed to be, which is our lecture 2. okay, this is where it's supposed to be. So right now we are covered. So now Ctrl S to save our document. So let us start. Do not forget that our structure is, we have header, do not forget, then we have a div. If you do not forget, this div is the one I called contents. okay, and after the div we now have footer. So this is our structure, and we want to repeat most of this structure, because if you look at that, we want to repeat this header part, and we also want to repeat the footer part in all the pages of our document. okay, the only thing we do not want to repeat is the content, because by the time you get to contact us, the content should change, but the header should not. Likewise, the footer, it should not. And for that reason, instead of wasting our time, you can copy the header part of the document, which of course you know it's the same. Ctrl C, and you can add straight here and put it here. Ctrl V, and that is our header, since the footers too remains the same. So you want to copy the footer part of your document, because you do not want to start typing it again. So Ctrl C on your keyboard if you are on Windows OS, and after here you want to hit Ctrl V, and so we now have our footer. If you hit Ctrl S to save your work and try to open the document, by right clicking on it over here. Click on Reveal and File Explorer. It shows it to you on Windows. You can now double click on it to open it, then you see it coming up straight in your browser. Okay, now this is what we get, and the question is why. Okay, if I will answer that question for you, I will tell you that it's possible that our CSS file, which is style.css, is not linked together with this contact us.html, and that's the reason why some of our designs are not coming out in the way we expected. So if you have a case like that, you want to be so sure and certain that truly the linking is going on as expected. So css / style.css, Ctrl S, and you can be very sure if you hold down your Control key and click on this plus, it will just open up the file for you, and that means you are supplying the right parts. That's what it means, that you are supplying the right part. Okay, and again we have home, and do not forget that this home, the header is inside the home. Okay, now if you head straight back to our document, our original design, you will discover that the header is inside the home. But if you check our home here, you will discover that we do not even have home. So inside the body we just have header straight away, whereas all of this should have been in the home. So we created like house for every part, all the content. So you do not want to miss that, otherwise the structure will change, and if the structure change, chances are the style.css you have designed already won't work for the new structure. So let's keep up with our structure, because we have home. It is inside home that we now have every other stuff. Okay, so you want to hit Ctrl S to save your document, hit on refresh now. Oops, so it's going on as expected. So if you compare it with this one, you will discover that the only thing missing is the content, and that's because we do not want to repeat the same content. We want to change the content for the contact us form. Okay, so now how do you want to design this contact us form? It all depends on what you are going for. Okay, but let's say that I want to quickly create a simple drawing to show you that you are always in control of what, of the way the structure looks, the outlook looks. So let's say this is my what is it called, let's say this is my content area. So maybe I want to create something like this. This is where I'm going to be having the form that you will be filling. An example of this form can now be, maybe let's create another okay, let's click on the plus sign and type here. Maybe we now have surname, something like this. Okay, then click on rectangle, draw a simple rectangle where the person is expected to enter the name. Then we have like that, and at the end we have button. So what is going to be here? Okay, let's draw another rectangle here, so we can make this to be our advert area. We do not want the font to occupy the entire area. So now you can be rest assured that we can now begin to put some pictures here for adverts, something like this. So this an outlook we are going for, which of course is not bad. So you as a web developer, as a front-end designer, you need to know what you are going for and try to achieve it. And if I ask you to do something like this, what I think should come to your mind first, based on what we have designed before, is to divide the width of your content area into two. If I say divide it into two, that means 50-50. But maybe you want this part to 50% to 50%, but maybe you want this part to be 70-30. It is not bad. So it all depends on what you are going for, which is not bad at all. Okay, so let's go for maybe 70-30, or you can change it to whatever you want. Okay, so now the work is in the content area, and I can now focus more on the content area. So let's collapse this so that you can have a better chance to see it. And if you scroll up here, this is my content area that does not have anything right now. So with our design, you already know that I need two division. This is one house, this is another house, so I need two division. So I need a division for the form, so we can give this a class of form, even though we have not created a class yet, but we are laying down the structure, the look for what we are going for. So this is another div, and this I intend to put some picture there for my advert. So this I'm going to type advert. So making how many div altogether? Making two divs, and I want the two divs to be side by side. But right now, let's put some content there. I'm creating a paragraph, just some form of sample to show to you, and I'm creating another paragraph. And if you hit Ctrl S to save your work now and you refresh, did you see that the two paragraphs come next to one another vertically, not horizontally? But if you want it to be horizontally, what do? You float it to the left. But let me quickly share this with you in case you do not get it from her last lecture. I will be removing all of this. Is just a way to show you. Let's say I'm giving it some background color, maybe of this aqua, and I'm giving this, the second div, a background color of maybe blue violet, and you hit Ctrl S to save your work. If you refresh now, you get a chance to see the two color, and if by seeing it, I believe you would now understand that the two div take the entire weight. Even though they do not need the entire width, they take the entire width. This is the content only take as much as this, but the entire div, the div takes the entire width. And even if you float it to the left, chances are it won't go, because the one above it has taken the width, leaving no space for the one below it to be accommodated, something like that. So I only put the background color there so that you will quickly go along and remember what we have done in the past. So what then do you do if I were you? Simple. You want to change this to change the width and change the width, but we are not going to be doing all of this here, just because we now have a better approach to do our work. And what is the better approach? We already created a CSS file where we can do our stuff. Okay, so this is the content area that I am designing. So if you head straight back here, you look at, take a very good look at your document, you will discover that we already have this content, and this content, if you remember, was what we designed for our home page. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to use the same content for this new design, because they have separate design. So what then do you do? Well, it depends on your naming convention. There are better ways to work all this through, but let's keep up with what is so easy to understand. Okay, so I'm creating home, and I'm pretty sure that I have a content inside home, but I do not want to name it content because I already have one content. So we can of course call this contact, because we are designing it for contacts form. So we now have contact dash content. That's the new class I am designing, and it's like that. Okay, so, and in fact, to quickly test it out, let's introduce some background color here, maybe blue, and hit Ctrl S to save your job. Remember, you have to come down here, and instead of giving this content, it will now be contact dash contact, like this, and you want to hit your Ctrl S to save your document. So the entire content now should have the blue color. That's if it works as expected, but it does not, just because we have some typo here. So we have contact content, so this is supposed to be in, and hit Ctrl S. So let's test again. So you want to hit refresh. Okay, we are still not having the, so contact, and this is supposed to be, oops, sorry for the typo, this is supposed to be O. So if any of the spelling is wrong, don't expect to get any meaningful thing. So you can now see that we are able to get that kind of blue color. So now we have how many div inside it? We have 2 div, form and advert. So let's quickly create those children. Okay, but on my content for now, I do not even need anything, so you can of course leave it empty, or you even delete it entirely. So home, contact, content, and I'm creating another class for form. Okay, and I'm doing the same thing for advert. Okay, and if you head straight to form now, then we can start giving it something. Let's start with background color, and the reason I'm giving it the background color is so that you can really get to see what I am doing. So I'm introducing another background color. Okay, now hit Ctrl S to save your job, head straight back here. Then you will discover that you already have form here and you have advert here, which is the same with what we have here. So you should now see, you won't be seeing the blue color again, but you are now seeing the blue for the different div. Okay, now I want to change the width so that the width will now look something like this. Okay, so that's what I'm going for. So the first one, which of course I call the form, should now have a separate width of 70% of the entire width, okay, of the entire width of the screen. And the width for this should not be how many? 30%. How much? 30%. Hit Ctrl S to save your work, and you want to refresh. Okay, so you can see now that good for us, at least this 30 can now come here, and it will fit in as expected. So how then do you make it to come over there? Then you want to remember your float left, and you want to come down here and remember your float left too, because the two should have the float left. And now let's refresh. Good for us. So we are getting there, because if you now check what we have here, we are getting there. So the only thing I need to do now is put some pictures here as my advert, and put some content here as my form, and the deal is done. So that is laying down the structure, and you do not even need the background color. I only put the background color there so that at least you can have a chance to see that I am really doing some division, and some divisions are going on over there. So at this point, I can now begin by putting my form here and put some pictures here, which of course they had the contents. So let's try it on that. So this is the file I am working with. Okay, so let's go back here. So instead of this ugly paragraph, now we can begin to put some form here, and instead of this ugly paragraph, we can begin to put some pictures here. Okay, let's start with the pictures first, and remember we get to put pictures there in form of advert, so in form of with the img tag. So if you choose, look here, and okay, you can just put any pictures that fit in over there. Okay, let's look at some pictures. This is one, this is two, okay, this is another. Okay, so the whole looks too similar. Okay, let's go with this. Let's go with this at least. But you know, you can put the pictures of any advert there, but the picture we are putting there right now is inside products. So what you want to do over here is to put those pictures here. So, and the picture is inside images, followed by products, then followed by the app1.png. okay, so Ctrl C, Ctrl V, making two pictures, right? Then you want to change this to 2, and that picture does not have any width assets now. So if you hit on Ctrl S to save your work and you refresh, okay, now you can see the picture, and you can see that it's really side by side. Okay, no problem. And over here, let's say there is a content here, chances are, let's refresh now and see, so that you need to get the behavior. You can see, so if there is no content here, your system will just see it as empty, something like that, and you understand. So now there is content there. You can see we are getting our design back. Okay, but look at it. These two, the width of these two can be accommodated here, but what I want is to be vertical so that this will come under here. Okay, so what you can do is to make sure that this IMG have a width of 100%, and if you come here and say that, okay, you want, you know that inside advert there is IMG tag, and you are speaking to that IMG now. So you want that IMG to have weight of 100%, and you might be thinking 100% is so big, but it can be bigger than the container. Remember that the IMG is living inside this container, and the container itself is 30%. So the 100% of 30% is 30. So if you refresh now, you can see it's now 30%. I can see that it just occupied the whole and the entire width, and for that reason the other one does not have any other choice than to come under it. Okay, but at the same time the 100% looks too big, because if I say 100% right now, I am saying 30%, so the 30% looks too big, and if I do not want it to be 30%, then I have to reduce this to maybe 50% of it. And if you say 50%, that means 2 would now, okay, it is not bad as 50, but I will prefer to make it 30. So if that will now be 30% of 30% already. Okay, and I think this is good, only that I want to centralize it and make sure that it comes next after one another. Okay, horizontally, and that is not going to be difficult for us to do, but note that we might need to introduce some merging or padding, because if you look at it over here, the space is position, the alignment is over here. I hope you get it. The alignment is not over here, and even if you head straight to the advert itself and you introduce this line of center, because the IMG is inside advert and you centralize it, the image should not be positioned at the center. Okay, but at the same time you see now that the two are positioned at the center. Okay, so how then do you break it down? How do you break it down? IMG tag is an inline block tag, a tag that does not take the entire width that it can. It will only take the little it can, so that others can come beside it. But let's say you want this to come like under here, not bad. The thing is, you can introduce let you remember that a div would take the entire width. So that means a div is a block element, but this one does not take the entire width. It's an inline block. So you have two choices. To go about that. You can ramp this tag in its own div, write this one too in its own div, and they will be on their separate line. Okay, or we find a way to say that since we know that the display is inline block, can we just try and change it to block so that they can occupy their own separate line? And of course it does work for us. Now you can see that they are treated as a block element, and a block element will occupy the entire width. Okay, and even though it's a block element now, you can see that it's now positioned over here to the left. Okay, but let's see if we introduce some margin left so that we can push it to the back, and we put over here at 10%, just because we want to push those things. You can see now that we created a little bit of margin here. And okay, so how then do you balance it up? Well, let's say you put the value of auto here and you refresh. Okay, then put the value of 0 here, which now means 0 space auto, and you refresh. Okay, so you do not have it centralized at the margin. you do not have the item position at the center even with your auto. So you can see. So what you can instead do now is to balance it up, because you know that the entire house is 30% and the width of this is taking 30% of that 30 itself. So maybe you can say that it's just taking and okay, let's shift it by 20%, because if it is taking 30 and let's assume that it's remaining 70, and you say that 70 divided by 2 and it becomes 35 for instance, so you put 35 here and hit Ctrl S to save your work and you refresh. Okay, some way somehow it looks like it's in the center now, which is not bad. And I was able to come to this number because I know that the entire width of course is 30%, but if you look at the image is 30%. So if the image is 30%, that means it remains 70. And if you now see the remaining 70%, you divide it by 2, giving you 35, and you shifted it and like that, and it becomes 35. And maybe you do not want the background color at all, so you use Ctrl to comment the background color on the advert, because maybe you do not want to put too much of color, so it stay just as expected. And for your blue color, we do not want the background color too, so later on we remove it, but at least we are able to put some pictures there that represent our advert, so it can just be any picture. So let's quickly go to our form, which is the main thing that we really want to do. There are a lot of ways you can just position your form in the way you want, but let's go extremely simple because we've been working with floatlet and floatlet. In our next lectures, I'll be showing you another approach that is even more responsive to do it. Okay, but right now let us make use of table so that you can have a feel on table once again. So I'm creating a row and I'm creating a column, and in this column I am typing surname, and I want to create another column, and in this column I am creating another tag which we call you want to create another tag that will give your audience a chance to type their surname. And what you want to do is you of course want to create input, and the type is going to be text. Okay, later on I'll be showing you that how we give it a name that we can use from code, but let us look at what you have done right now. So I will hit Ctrl S to save my work, and I'm going to refresh. Then you can see the little thing you have done over here. This is just a table of one row that has two columns, column A, column B, and in the column A we have surname type, in the column B we have the input type. Okay, so you quickly want to repeat the same thing for what? For other name. Okay, so td, then you want to type other names. Okay, then td, then you want to type input once again, and the type is going to be text because you want them to be able to type. Okay, and remember we are doing contact form. Okay, so maybe subject. Okay, so td subject, and over here another td, which is another column, then input once again. No, we won't use input for this one. Let me quickly introduce you to test area. Okay, and let me collapse this so that I can get a better chance to see. So this test area have column of 30 and row of 10. That means it can take by default 10 rows of 10 lines of text, although it can take more than that. Hope you get. So if you hit Ctrl S to save your document and you refresh, then you can see. So by default, if you can't, it will take 3 line, 4 line, 5 line, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now you can see after the 10 a strobe bar will now come. You can see, so that means you can type more than the 10 line, but now you will have to scroll up and down. So we have something like this. But how would you feel if let's look at our table. Let's add some style to our table, okay, and you get a better chance to see how we can even design it more. Now you can see that inside form we now have a table. So let's extract here. Then we want to quickly design our table. So I want to speak to only the table tag that is inside the form, okay, which is, of course, is a child. And I'm introducing background color now because I just want to point out some things to you. I'll be removing the background color in a short period of time. Now you can see that the table is not very wide. It's not as wide as the container. Assuming you want it to be as wide as the container, then you introduce your width and let it be 100%. Remember, the 100% now means 70% because the container itself is 70% and the child won't be greater than the parents in this case, okay. So we now have something like this. You can see now that the background color of the table now covered the background color of the parent because they now have equal width, okay. So later on I'm going to remove all those background color, okay. So this is not so bad. And some other things you can do is maybe let's introduce there's a line, oops, centered on your table itself, and you can see it's now positioned at the center. If that is what you want, fine, but for now I will just go with the left alignment, which looks a bit better than that one, okay. But mind you, we're still working on the table. So let's quickly finish up our form, because at the end of the day, when they type the surname, the other name, this, somebody will have to click on submit to submit the form. So let's quickly introduce a button here, okay. So I do not need this color again. I can hit $! to comment this $! Ctrl+S to save my work. And if you extrude back now and refresh, now you can see it's just white, which of course is what I want. So extrude back here. So I'm creating another row, and in this row I'm creating TD, okay. Then I want to create input. The type is going to be what? Button or submit. So the type is going to be submit, and see what we got with type of submit, which is no longer type of text. Now we have a button, okay, which is not bad. Only that we do not have a second column. I do not need it, but there is a property here that is called call span, and if you put 2 here as call span, this one is not a CSS property, it's just HTML property, but we can shift it down to CSS. That one is not an issue, but for now let's go with this, okay. So oops, now you can see that these 2 columns has become one. The call span is a way to say that I want these 2 columns to be just one. That is, I want this one column to take the space of 2. Hope you get it. And right now, if you introduce a style of text align and make it to be centered, you will just see it coming to the center. But assuming this is not there, and you hit Ctrl+S to save your job, and you refresh, it will go to the center, but it will only go to the center of the first column. But let's assume the first column is equivalent to 2 columns. That means the center, sending it to the center, will no longer send it to the center of the first column, but to the center of the 2 columns. Oh, that has gone a bit too far, okay. And do you know why? That's because the table starts from here down here. Hope you get it. So it starts from here down to this place, and this is the center of the 2 columns, because this one is very wide. But if I were you now, I wouldn't use the column span. Hope you get it. I would rather I still want to leave it this way, because if you leave it this way, this is what you get, but I want it to be under here. So I will create an empty column here where I won't type anything, and create the second column here. So this is what I'm trying to say in essence. If you So making two columns, but only that I did not put anything here. But now the second column will now go to the position of this one, but we still have the same result anyway. That one is not an issues to be worried about. But what I know you can do to quickly save yourself from that mess is to go back to your style and change your table from maintaining the space, the width of 100%, maybe down to 70, and hit Control S so that your table won't be that big as before, which will not affect this one, which of course is good. So you might even want to make it 50%, and you want to hit okay. You can see now that your form is getting even more closer, which of course is not bad. Okay, so one other thing you can then do is to maybe add some margin to the entire table. All of this you're free to just try it out the way you prefer, and leaving some margin will not mean that there is space here, there is space there, but this is just a quick way to show you how to design a form in HTML. There are better approach to design a beautiful form, which of course we are going to be following from our next lecture. So for now, let us just stick with our 100, Control S to save our work, and S here. Delete this, and let's just leave it this way, and we get something like this. So for now, we will just stick to this, which of course is not bad. At least you can submit with this for now, and this marks the end of designing a simple HTML form. But in our next lecture, we will soon be looking at more beautiful way to design something that will even be more better than this. So this is going to mark the end for the designing of form in our HTML. Of course, there are still many more like radio button and co. All of those we are going to be doing as we progress further, so that we do not take too much of our time here. But at the same time, I will really refer some books for you. You can Google. I will be sending you some documents on what to learn next by teaching yourself HTML. Haven't learned from the techniques and the approach that you use to work with it. So reading those books and furthering up on your journey will even make it to be extremely easy. So thank you once again for joining me on this lecture of creating simple HTML form with CSS and the HTML tags. Thank you.